total bullshit. I mean, Jews and Muslims got along famously until the advent of Zionism. As a secular Jewish kid growing up in the US, I always had people in my life telling me how much I was supposed to care about Israel. Like, oh, you gotta go to Israel, and know the land. You're gonna feel such a connection to the land. And I can't express to you just how much as a kid growing up, I did not give a shit about Israel. But I still say that I was a Zionist back then because I accepted the normalcy of Israel. I accepted this total fantasy that Israel was gifted to the Jews after the Holocaust by a benevolent world order. And I had never heard the word Palestinian. I just didn't even, have any concept of the people who had been on the land where that gift was made. And being a kid in the 90s, Yasser Arafat, the First Intifada, Camp David, these were things I caught glimpses of on the news at night when my parents were watching it. And from them, I gleaned this story, which is also total fantasy, that the violence in Palestine was because of an ancient religious hate between Jews and Muslims. And this is total bullshit. I mean, Jews and Muslims got along famously until the advent of Zionism. Much better than Jews were getting along with Christians in Europe. I mean, if you need some evidence for that, here's a 1,000-page book you can read about a history of Jewish-Muslim relations. I didn't encounter any anti-Zionist Jews until I went to college. And I went to Oberlin, which is very Jewish and very leftist. And so sometimes, like at a party, this raging debate would break out between anti-Zionist Jews and Zionist Jews. And when they would start to fight, I would once again be filled with this just like deep-seated feeling of resentment of like, I don't give a shit about Israel. I don't want to have to give a shit about Israel. And I'm gonna go get a beer. But I sort of put a pin in the back of my mind of like, someday I'm going to figure out how I feel about Israel and Palestine. But while I was in college was not that day. And that day came when I was just in a Half Price Books one day and I saw Palestine by Joe Sacco on the shelf. And it's a graphic novel. And I thought, hey, if I can learn about Palestine through a comic book, like that doesn't even feel like homework. So I took it home and I read it. And because it's a graphic novel, you can read it in the space of 3 hours, and it just completely blew my mind. It blew up everything I thought I knew about Israel. This wasn't some ancient, intractable religious hate. This was settler colonialism and apartheid. This was like the Jim Crow South. This looked a lot like Nazi Germany, which I had been taught all my life to like fight against with every ounce of my being. And so from there, I thought, gee, well, I better read some books by some Palestinian authors because Joe Sacco isn't even Palestinian. So I started picking up books by Palestinian authors. And I started recommending people read Palestinian authors on social media. And doing that in 2021 earned me a Canary Mission profile. I tried to kick off a Read